Hey everybody, how you doing? Jonathan Lipp here from the Big Apple Film Festival, which is taking place this year, 2015, November 4th to the 7th at Village East Cinemas. Welcome to BAFF Chats. I'm happy to present our guest, Mohammed Maaty, today, and we're going to talk a little bit about HBO and documentary filmmaking and narrative filmmaking and sort of how the future looks for VOD and cable. So if you could tell us, first of all, just a little bit about what you do, Mohammed.
Absolutely. Hello, welcome. Thank you for having me. I'm an associate producer working at Creative Services at HBO in New York City. Basically, I write, produce, and edit various promotional materials, long-form featurettes for various shows like Game of Thrones, Last Week Tonight with John Oliver, and a few of our documentaries as well.
As I was saying to you before, one of the things I remember, when I was young, was that HBO was really the end-all be-all of watching movies at home. You had whatever was out in the movie theater, which was like 7 to 10 films, and if you didn't see it in the theater, you watched it on HBO. Right. Nowadays, it's a whole different world. There's so much content now that's available online, digitally, VOD, etc., even theatrically. How do you see the future of independent film distribution in terms of VOD, cable, DIY, do-it-yourself distribution? What do you see as the future, really, for independent filmmaking now?
I mean, to be honest, it's a really exciting time right now for an independent filmmaker trying to get his work out there and to hopefully actually be able to make some of that money back that they put into the production itself. It was, as early as maybe 5 or 6 years ago, it was just you make a film, you pour your heart and soul and your savings into it, you cruise the festival circuit, you hope to God that you get picked up by a distributor, maybe get a theater release, and if you're lucky, a DVD release. Those weren't the most. First of all, it's a 1 in a million chance out of I think like 10,000 films that get sent to Sundance. Maybe 200 of them ended up going to theaters. 15. Okay, wow. So the number gets even bigger, and of which a couple of hundred ended up making it to theaters. So it's obviously very slim pickings. Their chances are very slim of securing that. On top of which, those deals rarely work in favor of the filmmaker. Most theater deals are 50-50 or 60-40. You have to give the distributor their cut and so on and so forth. And the hopes back then was you'd see your DVD sitting on a shelf at a video store. Well, fast forward, and now Blockbusters went out of business, and so even that's like becoming less of a possibility. But what's happening now is we have this VOD revolution where the more the power is put back into the filmmaker's hands, and you have the ability to reach wider audiences. You can pretty much put all the power back in your hands, almost all the power back in your hands, depending on what you end up going with. I mean, you're talking about basically cutting out the middleman and doing your own distribution and having a direct reach to your client base, and even going across overseas and in markets that you wouldn't have even dreamed of with a normal theatrical release. There's been this is revolutionizing how we see distribution. You can break it down to so much as, you can look at YouTube, you could look at Squarespace, which I just linked up with Vimeo. iTunes obviously is one of the biggest ones, but each platform has a different deal set up and different steps for you to take and different options for you to take as a filmmaker. iTunes or Netflix, obviously, for example, you have a huge viewership already there, but in order to get there, you have to get an aggregator, which is essentially a distributor. And yes, the deals vary, but it's kind of sketchy at the time. I heard some stories where the filmmakers end up getting little to nothing after securing in what they thought was a good deal. So the other option is, doing it all yourself. You have places like Squarespace, which is a platform that lets you, design your entire web front to package your film, do whatever you want to do, link it up with Amazon, and sell it as either a downloadable link or as a DVD package. Now, the split there is 50-50, but Amazon takes care of all the distribution, the creation of the DVDs. They'll handle all that for you. So if it's more important for you to get it out and you don't necessarily have the resources to do all the packaging, they take care of that all for you. And I mean, video on demand is something that's growing exponentially. I mean, I think it's about 20% every year since in the past 5 years alone. And theater viewership is kind of on the decline. DVDs are dying, if not dead. And so that is the shift that everyone's taking, is how, like, with everyone's home theater systems, people are more comfortable watching the stuff at home. So why not capitalize on that and really give yourselves the opportunity to market it and sell it the way you want to? Another great example is BitTorrent. BitTorrent just started doing these package deals where, again, you can customize everything yourself, you reap all the profits, and you can actually decide what you want to give to people who want to access your film. It could be, you know, a $5 or $10 payment for it, or you can give them the full link in exchange for posting about it on their social media site. So it's a matter of what's more important for you. You know, do you want to make some money out of it, or is it more important for you to get the word out about your film, about your project? But the most important thing, I feel like, and which will never change, is marketing. You have to be able to market your film, possibly even more so with VOD than with a theatrical release, because you're not the only one doing this now. You know, you're swimming in a sea of thousands of titles on that on-demand list. And I read a recent article that said that, you know, films whose titles start with the letters A, B, or C are more likely to get seen because people are scrolling down from the top. And if there's no buzz, or if you don't have any big name actors in your film, you really have to focus on marketing. So there's some really creative ways to doing that, which we're actually implementing ourselves with the independent work I'm doing as well. It's, you have to be able to, you know, do private screenings and Q&As and parties where people can interact and mingle and either show them a trailer or show them the whole thing, and then reach out to them and their followers on social media and tell them about where they can purchase the entire film. You can link up with, you can do college screenings. There's organizations that directly relate with universities where you can share your work, tell them about what you're doing, and tell them how to get more information and follow the links that way. There's ways that you can kind of set yourself apart from the masses and really you know, make the most of this new movement. For example, we're working on an independent original series called The Life, which tackles the issue of independent domestic sex trafficking in New York City. It's a drama series, so we linked up with the School of Public Health at Harvard University, did a private screening there, spread the word, spread the message, made a lot of contacts, and did a Q&A with some of the cast and crew, and actually met survivors there that helped support us and spread the word to her followers, you know, and reaching. And also, for example, if your film is a comedy, you can link up with, you can arrange screenings or Q&As at, you know, comedy clubs and go on tour with them. Or if your film if it's a documentary about music, go on tour with the musicians, you know. Really promote your film. There's so many creative ways for you to set yourself apart, so that people are actually actively searching for you on these platforms, rather than hoping that they just come across it and click it along the way.
I just want to ask you as well, do you eventually see VOD taking over and the traditional cable outlets becoming obsolete eventually? Or do you think, I mean, do you think the traditional cable outlet will continue to exist?
It's a good question. I think they're definitely going to have to adapt to the movement. I think they're going to definitely have to open up their markets for similar to what Vimeo's doing, and either, you know, partner up with some crowdfunding websites like Indiegogo or Kickstarter, and have a separate section for, you know, films that are being included in there, like an easier channel for these independent films to be featured on them. And I look at like HBO Now, for example. They're brand new web non-subscription. It's the first time HBO is available to people who don't want to pay the full-on subscription. I think people like places like that need to start opening up their doors to let in some of these films, because I mean, the wave is coming. If you don't want to become, you know, obsolete, you need to. I think they're going to have to adapt, without a doubt.
Great. And I'll just ask you one last question. I've been asking people a lot this week. What do you see about the future of the cinematic experience? Will the movie theaters cease to exist eventually? Or what do we see happening within the next decade if I'm an independent filmmaker?
I mean, it's sad to say, but it's definitely gonna be a decline. I mean, it's steadily declining now. I don't think it's gonna be obsolete because at the end of the day, people love going to the movies. It's still great to be able to take part in that experience when you're in a room full of people in a dark room, and you share the laughs and the moments and everything. I love that. I live off that. I haven't gone as much, mainly because there's so much great content available right at home. And again, with people's home theater systems, it's no longer like popping a VHS on your old SD box tube television set. We have full-on surround sound and amazing technology to make the at-home experience just as enjoyable as seeing it on the big screen. So I think it'll steadily decline. I don't think it'll be obsolete. And of course, that's their biggest fear with video on demand. I mean, the studios and theater owners are trying to resist this as much as possible. But I mean, George Lucas and Steven Spielberg said themselves at a panel at USC last year. They were like, it's going to happen eventually for theaters, but for independent films, the future is now in terms of having everything shift to internet TV. I think it's going to happen right now for independent filmmakers without a doubt, and it's a matter of time before it catches up to the cinemas for sure.
Well, Mohammed, I want to thank you so much for being a part of our chat today. I really appreciate it. Thank you, and we'll see you guys at the festival.